Elon Musk at the town hall meeting.
But
we
just want people to
ask him a question and
not make decisions when they're young that make them unhappy as an adult. That's really what it comes down to. And I think we want to say we want to optimize for people's long-term happiness, but that means like making sure, like I said, that there are no irreversible changes during a kid when a kid has an identity crisis, which every kid has, and that's totally cool. And so my opinion is we should just tell kids that when they're going through puberty and identity crisis, that's totally normal. And don't get too stressed about it. And things will settle out how they settle out. And, that's the right thing to do.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Elon Musk. My name is Lenka White. I'm a legal immigrant from the Czech Republic. We are all very grateful for X. I think it's the only platform where we can find the truth, and not only here in the United States, but in places like Europe. My question is, what is your vision on the future of the media under Harris versus under Trump, how it would look like, and can the legacy media still earn the trust back, and what would happen to X, of course? Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, no, it's a great question because I think what we'll see is a lot of censorship under the Kamala regime. Kamala is really she's just a puppet, frankly. I mean, if the teleprompter breaks, she doesn't know what to say. So, I just call it the machine. The kind of big government machine, essentially, and you sort of have a base on the big government machine, and when the Biden puppet was not working out, they sort of got a new puppet, but it's still the same machine, obviously, and it's extremely undemocratic what was done. It's bizarre and hypocritical to claim that Trump is somehow an engine of democracy when what happened with Biden being removed as the candidate was incredibly undemocratic. Right. Yeah. So, it doesn't make sense. There's clearly a strong push for censorship under the guise of fighting disinformation. But really, disinformation is a propaganda word. It's not a. Well, who's going to decide what's disinformation? The government? That's crazy, So that's just, yeah. So I think we'll see. This is like a very. This is why we have this petition in support of freedom of speech and right to bear arms. Is that it's under siege. It's being attacked. But really, we should have the free marketplace of ideas. People can propose an idea. They can. The people can discuss an idea and they can make a statement. People can rebut that. They can have this sort of the people can decide. And I think it's far better for information to sort of bubble up from the voice of the people than to be decided by a handful of editors-in-chiefs of newspapers. That's the biggest point of manipulation that occurs in the media is not when the media says something that's false or misleading, because they do that, but their choice of narrative. What are they going to talk about? Is that's by choosing to focus on one thing and not focus on another thing, that they're sort of steering what information the public receives. Whereas I think the right thing is that the narratives that are important should be the narratives that the people as a whole think are important, not what a few media oligarchs think is important. they sure like controlling information. So I think if the Kamala machine wins, then we'll see. I think severe censorship is what's going to happen.
The last election.
That's why I think this is the last election. Yeah.
Thanks to you, Kamala is not going to win. My name is Chet Filer. I'm from right here in central Pennsylvania, and I don't think that was an overstatement. Thanks to you, Kamala will not win. I have two questions regarding the election itself and what you believe can be done to create not only a victory, but a strong victory.
Yes.
I'm now convinced that, again, thanks to you, we're going to sweep the 7 states that we must win. But I also hope we could pick up New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Virginia. So I wonder what your thoughts are as to how decisive the victory could be. And then number 2, as was referenced earlier, we and all of America is very enthused about you working with Donald Trump to make our government appropriately smaller and more effective.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Because that message is so compelling, I wonder if your super PAC could be a little more clear about that point as it relates to you affecting that upgrade to this great country.
Yes.
Certainly, I'm happy to clarify that. I think a lot of the things I say, I feel like I'm just stating the obvious, but sometimes the obvious isn't what happens, or is that if America is not strong, if the West is not strong, then nothing else matters. The companies that I run, they don't matter. Like basically, if America is the central pole holding up the tent that is Western civilization, and if that pole fails, nothing else matters. So, I try to encourage a lot of people in business and technology to say, like, hey, you just got to think long term. You don't even need to be altruistic. You just got to think long term and say, if America fails, what good is your business? It doesn't matter. So America must be strong, and the central pole that holds up the tent of Western civilization must be firm as an oak.
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Jerrell, and thank you for saving free speech. My question is, what would you expect to see when you head the Government Efficiency Department? What are your strategies and priorities to curb government spending?
Well, I've had some exposure to government spending because SpaceX does have a lot of government contracts. There's a lot of work for NASA, for DoD, Intel, and whatnot. And so I've actually seen just the level of waste that happens. And if you talk to people in the government, they actually agree. Yes, this is very wasteful and inefficient. And I'm like, well, why don't we do something about it? But really, in order to do something about it, it has to be a mandate from the top. And if the president is, if we have a great president like Donald Trump, who's willing to make major changes, and it's difficult because the system will fight you. The system's not going to be like, oh yeah, no, totally, we're totally happy being smaller. that will not be, the sort of antibody reaction of the system will be quite severe. I don't think it's going to be, they're not going to, like it, basically. But you have to have that mandate from the president. And we need a real president, not a puppet.
Right.
The thing that scares the system, that scares the machine, is that Donald Trump is not a puppet. He's a real person. And he's not the Hulk anymore. and that's why you see sort of, they're trying to kill him, and I mentioned as a joke, I meant it as a joke, that no one's even bothering to try to kill Kamala. Because there's no point. Just get another point. So I'm not suggesting someone should try to kill her. It's pointless. But I'm just saying, I'm just making an observation. Nobody's bothered. Why is that? Because it doesn't matter. Yeah. This has to end up comment is pointless. So.
I'm Chadwick from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and I think more people are voting for Trump than ever before. It's historically been Democratic. I wear my Trump hat and walking around, people come up to me all the time, all races, all sexes, and they're like, cheers, let's go.
Let's
I was
go.
just like, let's go.
Yeah,
MAGA.
exactly.
Like, so,
I'm proud. Let's go.
yeah,
I encourage people to put Trump ban signs on their lawn and wear a MAGA merch. Because a lot of it is like people, a lot of people they actually would like to support Donald Trump, but they aren't sure if anyone around them does too. And a lot of people, so you got to sort of, if you sort of kind of plant the flag, then people are like, yeah, I see other people are doing it, then maybe I will too. So, yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing.
100%. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for standing up for Trump and putting your voice out there because it's really important. See your face, the richest person in the world. That's you. So, thank you for that.
I mean, I built some companies that do a lot of useful things, and as a result, the stocks worth a lot. So that's kind of what happens. It's like, but in terms of personal expenditures, I do not know the particularly, I don't have like the yachts or islands or anything like that. I just work.
Good evening, Elon. My name is Jared. It's a pleasure and honor to meet you here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's an honor and pleasure to meet all you guys. I mean, this is fire. I mean, seeing the level of enthusiasm is just, this is firing me up big time. So.
Question, part A. I admire your authenticity as well as Donald Trump and truly wanting to make America great again, giving up whatever you need to just do the right thing, even if it's unpopular.
Yeah.
With all the government spending that you keep talking about on X, do you believe that in combination with the Department of Government Efficiency, with Donald Trump's policies, do you think we can reduce the U.S. national debt that's currently at under $36 trillion? And part B, is that after you do it,
We have to. Like, if we don't do something about the debt, it's gonna, this is like, for some reason, just the legacy mainstream media just ignores the fact that America is going bankrupt like crazy. It's like at a rate that is unprecedented. And the reality is that all government spending is taxation. So people I think, well, this government spending and taxation are somehow separate, but they're not. All government spending is taxation because the deficit is what results in inflation. And so inflation is a de facto tax because it causes all prices to rise and makes people trying to just live their lives have a lot of difficulty. But inflation throughout history has been used as a pernicious tax because it's 1 degree removed, so people don't feel it directly. Right. They sort of and then the politicians will try to blame it on something else, but it's all about government spending. Government spending is what drives inflation. So the key is we've got to reduce the government spending, and if we don't, we're going to go bankrupt as a country. End of story. Just like a person. If a person spends beyond their needs, they go bankrupt. And we're spending beyond our needs, and we're spending on like silly stuff that doesn't actually benefit the public.
correct.
Yeah.
Part two to that, I believe you're going to do that with Donald Trump. I'm just telling you that it's not if, it's when, because I'm confident you and Donald Trump are going to truly make America great again.
thank you. I do want to caution against complacency is the only thing. So it's like we just need to be super hardcore about getting every possible vote.
Confidence, yeah, not complacency.
Yes, exactly. We want to be confident, but not complacent.
Right.
And so that's why it's like we've got to just be total evangelists about the voting. And really every vote counts, and just make sure everyone you know is registered. The deadline for registration in Pennsylvania is
Monday.
Yeah, midnight Monday. Like you can register online, it's super easy. But like hound everyone you know to get registered, because after midnight Monday, it's no good.
And this is a silly question, but when you cut the government spending and you have a stack of all these deregulations, can you live stream on X and use not a flamethrower and burn that?
Yeah. Yeah. Great idea. I think a bonfire of nonsense regulations would be epic. Sometimes people are concerned, like, well, what if there's some regulation that's actually really important, and we get rid of that, and say, well, you know what? We'll put it right back. Problem solved. So, all right.
Mr. Musk, thank you for speaking directly with the voters, so that's it. That's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Removing yourself from the equation, what does it say about the Biden-Harris administration and the would-be Harris administration that they haven't worked with such great American companies such as SpaceX, Tesla, and then even speak out against X?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird. Yeah, because it was kind of a surprise, because it's like, Biden, for example, had that like electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than, yeah, it was not cool. And then credited GM with driving the electric vehicle revolution, and that was the second event. And in that quarter, GM shipped 26 electric cars, and Tesla shipped 300,000. And Tesla's at this point about 140,000 people. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from 140,000 people working hard to make great electric cars. To be sort of cold-shouldered like that for no reason, it's like, what's the deal? That's wrong. So, and then there was like that crazy thing where SpaceX competed for the Rural Broadband Initiative, and by the way, I'm actually generally against subsidies and incentives, but like we should let taxpayers keep their money, is my opinion. But they had this like $42 billion thing, and we competed and we won, and we would have actually been able to supply a lot of Starlink terminals to the states that were affected by the hurricanes, and they revoked the award. It's messed up. Like why? And then today, that $42 billion program, total number of citizens that have received broadband from that $42 billion allocation is 0. Now that's, if you want to, $42 billion for 0? I would pull that waste. Yeah, that's waste. That is not a good use of money. There's also a big government initiative, I think $7 billion, something like that, for a nationwide network of electric superchargers. And I think they got made like 10. I'm like, this is the most egregious waste of money. And there's so many situations like that. So, it just goes like bureaucrats and consultants, and nothing gets done, and it's wasting your money, which is crazy. So, one of the things like this is the opportunity to reduce government waste is actually, I think, easy because there's so much of it. It's not like they just don't care about your money, which is messed up. And so I think the Department of Government Efficiency is going to face a target-rich environment for reducing costs.
Hi, Elon. I've been waiting years for you to join the MAGA movement, so we're so glad you did. I guess my question is, you keep repeating that most of these things we believe in are common sense, and I really feel like they are.
Yeah.
Do you have any woke friends, and how do you deal with them?
Well, I mean, I have been red pilling my friends like crazy lately. I have fewer and fewer work friends. At least they're still friends, but they're not work. I think where the sort of the sort of good interpretation of the woke movement is that we want to have empathy for our fellow human beings. And of course we want to have empathy for our fellow humans. I strongly believe we should care about humanity and we should care about the future. But we need to have empathy that is deep, not shallow. Shallow empathy is caring about criminals, but deep empathy is caring about the victims of the criminals. And so, why do we have repeat violent offenders released on the streets, often with no bail? It's crazy. And they prey upon people, innocent people. And then our streets are not safe. And how can America be the greatest country in the world and we don't even have safe streets? It's crazy. I was talking to my mom and she was saying that just this year, like three of her friends have been assaulted in New York. And I said, well, was anyone arrested? No. They didn't even try. We can't have this. People deserve to have safe cities and secure borders and basic stuff like that. I think it's. I do feel that there's a shifting of shifting of perception, and I think I hope I'm not being too optimistic, but so I'm a naturally optimistic person, obviously. But I do feel as though that there's a shift in the national mindset, and a shift to just common sense and not believing everything the media tells you. And I think actually in the U.S. people are starting to realize that the legacy media is just a propaganda machine.
Yeah, they
And in Europe, they still believe the news. So we got to work on Europe. They still think the news is real. But here, thanks to X and just people being, I think, maybe a bit more aware and having an actual free speech constitutional amendment has helped Americans understand what is actually real. I do find it remarkable, like just how sort of coordinated the legacy media is in their talking points. It's absurd. Kudos to those who put together the compilations of where all of the talking heads will say the same thing, word for word. Yeah, they'll say the exact same thing, but I think the propaganda is not even good, frankly. It's not even entertaining. The week before the Biden-Trump debate, every media organization was saying that Biden and Trump was attacked. It was the exact same words. Trump's attacked, over and over again. Then it became obvious to the public that he was indeed not as Trump was attacked. But then immediately the legacy media pivoted to knifing Biden and anointing a successor. So we see this over and over again, and voice of the people, and that's why I felt it was necessary to acquire Twitter and the whole point of acquiring Twitter was to restore the voice of the people. And it's important to note that while the far left activists that used to control Twitter obviously did extreme censorship of voices on the right, there has been no censorship of voices on the left. They suspended a sitting president. Twitter suspended a sitting president, which is insane. But there's been no suspension or censorship or shadow banning or anything of anyone on the left. So, it's a level playing field. But I think that the reason that the sort of far left activists want unanimity in all social media platforms and in all legacy media is that their ideas do not stand the light of day. That is the reason. They actually don't stand up. And so unless everyone is parroting the same thing, their ideas will fail.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Musk. My name is Zion Thomas, and I was gonna ask for $1 million, but my parents told me to keep it professional, so.
Well, it's actually still possible that you may win that in the case.
But yeah, so you taking over Twitter was awesome. I want to know what other radical ideas you have to save our nation while working with Trump.
New ideas. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I try to be as literal as possible. So the values stated on the Ad America, the America PAC website and X account, I try to be just as straightforward and literal as possible. So that's why it's sort of safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, to protect the Constitution, especially the right to free speech, and these are all, like I said, things that seem very obvious and frankly normal, but they're not being done, and they're in severe danger if the Kamala machine wins.
I'm Nikki, and I've been working with voter registration, and a lot of people are concerned about the escalation in the U.S. military in Israel, because there's over 100 troops there on land now. What do you think of this idea? A boring company offering to build an island off the coast of Israel and call it Palestine. They can finally have their nation state like Cyprus. It's been done in China, Dubai, and the Philippines, and we can finally end these endless wars. Could there be enough rubble in Gaza to do it? Thank you.
Well, Gaza is a thorny problem indeed. The Middle East has been an area of contention, for thousands of years. I would say that I do not know the solution to that difficult situation there. I'm not sure there is. I'm not sure there is a good solution. There may be, but I think we need to make sure that America is solid. So I'm like, let's just make sure America is solid. And I do think we interfere too much in what other countries do. And a lot about attempts at regime change. In fact, the success of the State Department in achieving regime change is terrible. So there's all this effort spent, all this money spent trying to affect regime change in various countries, but failed in Cuba, failed in Iran, failed in North Korea, failed in Russia. Where were the successes? But a lot of people died, and a lot of money was spent, but what good has come of it? So I think we should interfere with other countries a lot less.
Hi, my name's Luke. I'm a local liberty lover who lives just across the river, actually. I find the idea that basically everything that we care about is dependent on a single federal election to, for lack of a better word, be unacceptable. So what I and some colleagues of mine have talked about is decentralization and localism, specifically nullification at the state and local level of the federal Leviathan.
Yeah.
At the state level, the 10th Amendment Center has done great work. The basis of nullification is the 10th Amendment, the idea that the powers.
I agree. The federal government should get off people's backs.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you believe that nullification is a viable path forward to getting that done?
Well, I can't speak to whether that is legally, would legally stand up or not. I mean, but I think if there's an executive branch, and we also need to, try to win the Senate and the House. But if there's a consensus that the federal government should do less and restore power to the states and to the communities, which I think should be the case, then I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
My name is Edward, and one of the really great things about going to these rallies are the people that you meet. Tuesday at the J.D. Vance rally, I spoke to some young students, and they wanted to be healthcare professionals. And the hardest thing for them to deal with is the financial obligations of doing it, trying to get an apartment and everything else. And I went to Germany, and college is free over there. So there's no one in the world that could tell me that America can't do it better. Well, can you help those rallies of the world out, please?
Well, I think that there are a lot of issues with college education. It's gotten very expensive because the administrative portion of colleges and universities has grown dramatically compared to the educational portion. So you say, like, how much is actually spent on teaching people? Very little. So I think that you've got these sort of administrative groups that far outnumber the actual number of professors, and like there isn't actually a need for college to be so expensive. It should be far less expensive, but the sort of bureaucratic creep and the administrative burden have grown dramatically over time, and that is what has caused college to be so expensive. It doesn't make any sense.
We should move into apprenticeships.
So, yeah. But there's, I mean, if we do sort of make college free, we have to be careful about that because then it's open season for wasteful spending at universities. And like then, however bad it is now, it's going to be even worse in the future. I think we need new universities to compete with the existing ones. Because what actually matters is how good is your education, not how much was spent on administrative BS. I also think that like the value of college education is somewhat overweighted. I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters. That's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors. So I think we should not have this idea that to be successful you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true.
My question is, as we near the election, I know you're covering a lot of ground in the battleground states. How important do you think ad buys will be this election? Because in 2020, Mike Bloomberg, spent a vast amount of money trying to get Biden into the White House. So I didn't agree to that, and yeah, that's my question.
Well, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, the amount of money spent on advertising in the battleground states is truly staggering. And in fact, the Democrats are outspending Republicans dramatically. Depending on how you count it, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more money is being spent by Democrats than Republicans. And in addition, they have the legacy media on the side, and they have a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities on the side. So it's remarkable that this election is in contention at all, given that they have really, you know, all that on their side. But I guess you gotta reach people with a message somehow. So I think probably, you know, we do need to do more advertising, just so that people hear the message. But in my opinion, the thing that's actually most important is getting friends, family, acquaintances, anyone you run into, to register to vote and then to actually vote. And this election could be decided by, you know, 1,000 people, 100 people. It could be a very tiny margin. So every incremental person makes a difference. And I've seen some pretty wild numbers where there's, and I think even right now, there's a lot of people that have requested, a lot of Republicans that have requested absentee ballots, but they have not mailed them in. I'm like, guys, mail it in, come on, just mail in your ballot, you can do it. You have it in your house. Mail it in. Now would be a good time. And if you're worried about the mail, you can bring it in person. So, I think it's very important to encourage people to vote. Like I said, I'm really emphasizing this registration point because we've only got a couple days left for registration. So that's why it's the top priority is get people registered for Monday night, and then make sure they vote. And I would recommend voting early. And then you can check to see if your vote's been received. You know, I think there should be a lot more Republicans voting early.
Hi, Mr. Musk. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you. Thank you so much for pushing the world forward in every industry, and I'm sure you'll be doing the same now in politics. So my question is, given the recent hacking of Donald Trump, how important do you think it is for the tech industry and government to back platforms that prioritize privacy and secure communications, such as Signal? And do you see an opportunity for your companies to partner with this platform or to better protect user data or even safeguard government communications?
Yeah. I mean, there's always this debate between you know, privacy and security, but I think the bias should be towards privacy. You know, I think we should not trust the government, really. And I'd say even if I'm in the government, don't trust the government. That's it's just you know, we've got to protect the privacy of citizens and you know, and make sure that people really have their liberty and they're not being spied on or, you know, manipulated. So, you know, yeah. So I think we need to make sure that there are not like backdoors and weird things where the government can, you know, spy on and potentially, you know, take action against people. Yeah.
Hey, Elon. My name is Ron Blount. I'm from Harrisburg. Before I ask my election question, I just have to tell you that I accidentally caught the launch and catch of both sections of Starship on live, and it was breathtaking, which I know everyone in here knows, but I want you to be acknowledged for the level of inspiration that you're creating now. I was cheering in my office watching this thing, and so thank you for that.
Hey, what's going on? I mean, I think it was yeah. I mean, it certainly inspired me, and that's a testament to the incredible work by the SpaceX team. Very talented, super hardworking team, and you know, the making rockets fully and rapidly reusable is really what's going to open up space for humanity and enable us to have a base on the moon and build a city on Mars and be a spacefaring civilization. So a lot of people don't realize like the difference between like an expendable rocket and a reusable rocket is like 10,000%. It's at least. You can think of it just the difference between, what does it cost to, fill up a car versus buy a car. It's the same difference for rockets. If a new rocket is needed every flight, that's super expensive and difficult. But if you only have to refill the rocket, it's dramatically cheaper, just like it is for a car or an airplane.
And landing in the ocean was just so
Yeah.
All right, so my question is on election night 2020, I sat down to watch the returns and I watched them steal the election. All right, I saw it live, watched it online. If you were watching it then, you knew at 9 o'clock when Fox declared Arizona that it was going down, and that was the moment. Okay. But even worse than that was over the next months watching the courts and the shenanigans in the courts and the lack of good representation that Trump had, and just nothing happening because there was obviously a problem. Nothing seemed to be happening in the courts at all. And between that day and now, it doesn't look like anything has changed. And so we're about to I think the votes matter, but the count is what matters, and if the courts are corrupted, we're not going to get anywhere. And so are you participating in that? It seems as though you're aware of that. How can you help solve that issue so that we don't have that problem again?
I mean, if the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, if there's any voting issues, if people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence, and let's shine a bright light on, and the brighter the light, the harder it will be to treat.
Hi, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Thank you for the work you're doing for humanity. There are a lot of changes happening in our world right now, a lot of changes happening in our own country, and these changes are being perceived as chaos. But I always say that if it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience peace. If it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience growth and evolution. And with AI being the new kid on the block and advancing at an incredible pace, I guess my question is, how do you foresee the election of President Donald Trump influencing technological advancements and societal transformation?
Well, I think reducing this sort of strangulation by overregulation is a super big deal. The rocket that we were just talking about, it was sitting on the launch pad for 2 months waiting for paperwork to be processed. And it's just insane that the SpaceX team can build a giant rocket faster than the government can move paperwork from one desk to another. That's just crazy. And the problem is that's getting worse and worse every year. So if that trend continues, it's just going to be illegal. We just won't be able to get anything done. That's why I call it like this extreme overregulation, where there's just new agencies being created every year, and the difficulty of getting anything done is like the square of the number of agencies involved. So if there's one agency, it's like 1, but if there's like 3 agencies, it's like 9 times harder because they all have to meet with each other. We get crazy things like SpaceX got fined $140,000 for dumping potable drinking water on the ground at Starbase when we launched the rocket, because we cool the launch pad with water, And in an excess of caution, we said, you know, we're going to bring in drinking water, just to be sure, and we're going to cool the pad with that. We didn't know there was a permit needed for that. Water falls from the sky all the time. Star Base is in a tropical thunderstorm area. It rains so much that the roads get flooded. Why are we getting fined for a tiny amount of water on the ground? But the EPA said they're not going to process any future applications for launch unless we pay this fine. So we just got, held for ransom basically. And that's the tip of the iceberg. I got a bunch of sort of nutty stories, Some of them, I guess, are kind of funny. There's, we had to do this, SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, that's a big ocean, There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And I said, well, you have, this is I think from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, known for school. They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you can hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, well, fine, we'll do the analysis, and then, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. We're like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this difficult, this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? They're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this shark data. And so eventually I think we got the data and we could run the analysis to say like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data. And then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? When you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because I look at a picture, honestly, it's like, yeah, where's the whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like, the odds are so low. It's like Final Destination of the Whale Edition. It's like, they had it in for that whale, and so we have to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, whales will be fine too, But it goes on. And then they're like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish. Okay? This is not how it works. So, anyway, just one crazy thing after another, where so this is why I'm really feeling the pain of the overregulation, and there's multiple federal agencies that have overlapping, they're all doing the same thing basically. So anyway, we got to stop this madness because we just won't be able to get anything done.
Hi, Mr. Musk. Thank you so much for doing everything that you do to try to save our republic. I am a citizen journalist. I started a small community newspaper.
Okay, you came up here and talked.
It's time to go now.
Please don't push me. Don't push me. Don't push me.
It's time to go now. It's time to go now. As you know,
It's time to go now.
VC media is corrupt.
It's time to go now.
I frankly feel threatened, and they are sabotaging, the big tech companies are sabotaging, shadow banning, and redlining my content. Google, Meta, Newsbreak. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, Meta is not allowing me to promote election ads, and I've given them everything that they needed. So my question to you is, would you consider establishing a Citizen Journalist Association, an organization that could help us fight this giant beast that we can't take on by ourselves? Provide training direction so that we could get the work done.
Yeah, I agree with you. There should not be it should not be okay for Google or Meta or anyone else to preferentially show left-leaning media because then people, how do people even know what's going on? So you know, and it's sort of, yeah. I mean, apart from X, I mean, they're pretty much all sort of controlled by left-wing activists, and right, and then but that's obviously, you know, unfair. It's so. I think they should be compelled to show content from all sides. They shouldn't be allowed to put their thumb on the scale and with political bias. Because then, if they are doing that, then they're entering the political game, and then they're subject to political punishment. Well, I think yeah.
To protect ourselves, to defend ourselves.
Yeah, I think that this is really a situation where the federal government should be saying that if a company has like 70% of the search market, like Google does, Microsoft's got most of the remaining 30%, it's a duopoly, they have to be fair in what they show. They can't be biased. Because otherwise they're falling afoul of antitrust, you know. So that's. But I think if it's not done at the federal level, I think it's you know, that's the only level where you can actually exert influence on giant companies. And it's really just to say like, hey, you've got to be fair and show, you know, and not put a political thumb on the scale. It's not right. So and this. I'd say that there's another big factor, which is that there's a lot of the advertisers also exert political pressure, which is, I think, not okay. So then there's all these moves with these like fake NGOs with nice sounding names like Center for Countering Digital Hate. Of course, who wants digital hate? But actually, they're just a left-wing censorship organization. And so they push these boycotts of any publication that doesn't support left-wing views. And so they just try to starve out any publications that have even sort of centrist views.
Hi, I'm David Fox. I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, a small farmer, a carpenter, a heavy metal musician.
Excellent.
A Teamster truck driver with over 1 million miles of safe driving.
We're a talented man.
So, if you happen to know a guy that might need a secretary of transportation, you know, let me know. But anyway, I was supporting Trump since 2015. And we all know that the Democrats are going to throw everything they got against you and against Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a given.
100%.
But my question really is, what the worst part is the neocon, milquetoast, naked Ken doll Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, which I stole that line from Jesse Kelly, if anybody knows.
True. This is the Union Party people?
Right. I mean, it just seems like they're the worst, that they would be the worst.
Fake Republicans.
Yeah. They would be the worst threat to the agenda of anyone, because you already know what the Democrats are going to do.
Yep.
So I don't think that those people know how much regular people like us despise those people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to vote them out.
Yes.
You know, that's really what it is. And my question is, has there been any talk at all about what to do after we win with those people? You know, because we already, like I said, we already know what the Democrats are going to do. But what about, you know, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, or the John Cornyn's, or the Mitch McConnell's, or, because you know what they're going to say. Well, there's nothing we can do. You know, that's how they're going to act.